Today on the show, I am so excited to be joined by Justin Welsh. Justin is a former startup executive who helped build 2 companies past $1 billion valuations, leading teams of more than 150 people and helping raise over $300 million in venture capital. After years in the fast-paced startup world, Justin experienced burnout in 2019 and made the bold decision to step away from his executive career to redesign his life with more intention. Today, Justin is the founder of a highly successful one-person internet business, generating more than $12.5 million in revenue while building an audience of over 800,000 followers on LinkedIn and hundreds of thousands more across other social platforms. He now spends his time teaching creators how to rethink how they work, earn, and live, helping people build freedom through audience ownership, personal branding, and monetizing the skills they already have. Let's welcome Justin. We like to start every podcast with an icebreaker.
Cool.
Okay, we're going to get right to the heart of it. So It's not going to be a softball for you. What has been the hardest part of your journey so far? Could be professional, but what was a moment that almost broke you along your journey?
A moment that almost broke me. Wow. I would say it's probably recently, right? Which is, as I'm sure everybody else is experiencing with the influx of artificial intelligence, like people's business models are just rapidly changing. And I think there's like an existential crisis sometimes that people have, like, what is my business going to become? And they spend an incredible amount of their energy, time, and attention trying to figure that out. And I got sucked into that rabbit hole of like, where do I go next? And it took about 4 to 6 months of like really digging out of that negativity around it to come to accept that it's happening and to say, there's got to be something different for where my business goes. I've sold information, I've sold products, all of that is being commoditized and eaten. And it took a long time to really get around the fact that it's going to happen. I have to be prepared for it. And there has to be something else that I can do. And that led me to how I'm thinking about my business over the next 6 to 12 months. But I would say there was a good like dark period where I thought, hey, everything's going to fall apart. Yeah.
I think everyone goes through those phases.
Sure.
What was the moment that you realized something has to change? Was it you saw yourself being copied across the internet? Was it a certain program or a certain, newsletter or thing wasn't working the way it used to? Like, talk to me about that catalyst.
Yeah. So I'm a pretty meticulous person. And so, and also have a strong attention to detail, but very like anal around everything. I'm a control freak, and I got used to going into my dashboards on a regular basis because I'm a former chief revenue officer. I have that old persona where it's like, log into your platform, see where revenue's at, take a look at that on a continual basis. And I found myself doing that like every 30 minutes to an hour. And pretty soon that becomes a terrible habit. And so I backed out of that and said, I'm going to look at my revenue at 8, noon, 4, and I'm going to know exactly, I hope, where my business is going to be. And I got that down to a science. Where should revenue be at 8 in the morning, noon, and 4? Then, as AI became more and more popular, I noticed that starting to trend down and then further down. And I made some adjustments, was able to get it back up, but then it just sort of kind of crept back down. And I walked downstairs to my wife, who was sitting at the kitchen table one day, and I just said, hey, it's happening. Like, this is coming. It's happening, and this is broken now. We have to figure out what to do next. And my wife, forever the optimist, was like, no, everything's fine. It's just a lull. Like, it's going to be the same. And like, everything's going to pick back up and you always get worried. But I could kind of see her like being overly optimistic intentionally. Mm-hmm. And so I'm a pessimist when it comes to some of that stuff. And my instant thing is to try and fix it. But you couldn't fix it right then and there. But I knew as I started to watch the revenue kind of dip over months and months that I had to retool. And so I think everyone's doing the same thing right now.
Yeah. What does your wife do? Like, what is her, I'm loving this like super optimistic balance for you. Tell me a little bit more about her.
Well, first and foremost, she is my wife and partner, and she's amazing at that. She is a wonderful dog mom of three dogs, but her—
What kind of dogs?
A Maltese Shih Tzu, a Cairn Terrier Schnauzer, and a Rat Terrier Chihuahua.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Variety.
Doug, Branch, and Munchie, who we've had for a while. And when she's not doing that and taking care of them in our life, my wife helps edit my newsletter. So she's a wonderful editor. She's a great writer in and of her own kind of skill. Yeah. But she's wonderful at reading through my stuff and being like, I don't understand this because it makes sense to me and doesn't make sense to her. And she's very helpful in that way. She handles some of the admin and logistics in our membership community, some of the in-person events that we do. She has an events background, so that's super helpful. And all in all, she's kind of the glue that just keeps everything together, to be quite frank.
And it's so nice that she could be in the weeds with you.
Super.
So like,
it's great.
Even though the way you phrased it was like, she's kind of this like outsider who was like, no, it'll be okay. But she actually knows a lot about the business. And she was kind of like,
tons.
No, I think we'll be okay. And you were more of the pessimist.
That's right. And I've always kind of talked about myself as a solopreneur. And the fact of the matter is the content's mine, the writing is mine. Like most of the creator side of the business or the creative side comes from me. But my wife has always been a 50% partner in our S Corp. She's always been an editor. She's always been a helper. She's always been behind logistics and admin. So like, truthfully, it's the two of us, right? And so I certainly couldn't do it without her.
Duopreneur.
That's right. Yeah. Harder to say, so I just went with the first one.
Yeah. Solopreneur has like a better ring to it.
Yeah.
You've like Saturday solopreneur, so you got that alliteration going on. Yeah. Which works out really well.
Thank you.
So I want to talk a little bit about revenue and making revenue because you talk about these dashboards. I think from the untrained eye, people just see you as someone with a big following, but maybe they don't understand exactly how you're making money.
Yeah.
So could you talk a little bit about, let's say this like pre-dark period, what were the revenue sources? What were the things that were really working? Yeah.
There were quite a few. So we'll break them down. The largest and most obvious was I sold information products. So my previous background was I was VP of sales, then chief revenue officer at a couple of startups in the healthcare space. And then as I started writing on social media, I figured out how to grow a following, mostly through creative writing. And so I started teaching people how I figured that out, right? The easiest example of that is like, I started on LinkedIn because I was afraid of everyone on X. Thought they were all going to be mean and nasty. Turns out they are. And so I started.
You were right. You were
super right. I started on LinkedIn and learned how to write for that platform. And so I was like, hey, I'll package everything up I know and sell that. And that turned into further content courses and then courses about business and revenue. And so a big percentage of what I earned, I would call it, let's call it 65 to 70%, was on information products. I also have a newsletter with 180,000 subscribers that has maintained pretty steadily over the last 5 years. And so another, let's call it, I think 10 to 15%, I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but is sponsorships. So companies that want to get in front of 180,000 people who are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, creators, makers, builders is another part. I have some affiliates, right? So products that I use. If I'm going to use them, I'm going to recommend them and might as well take a small cut of that. I have partnerships. So companies that I partner not only to help get their product out in front of my audience, but also I do advising on the side. So because I have the sales background, they pay me to be an advisor as well. So helping them grow their revenue and their marketing. That's probably another 10 or so percent. And then there's a membership community, which maybe makes another 7 to 8%. And then a bunch of other little things here and there. But the majority of it is really the sponsorships and course side.
Totally.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so you started to see that dwindle. What was the outcome of that sort of darker period? I'd love to hear like how you're adjusting your time now and how are you thinking about making money and sustaining this business beyond the things that maybe weren't working? One
of the things that I've started to think about is how much money do I actually need to make? I've been very fortunate and lucky in a lot of ways to come out of the gate strong in 2018, grow my business year over year for 7 straight years, and do it with just me and my wife. So huge margins, right? 90% plus margins in the business. And I'm in a lucky and fortunate position right now to think about not how do I make more money, but how much money do I actually need to make? And what do I want my day to look like in order to make that money? Because if you ask me, like, how do I double my business or keep it growing? That sounds, at this point in my life, not very exciting. So what I've landed on is you can kind of sell 2 or 3 different things right now. One thing that you can sell is you can lean heavily into AI. It's just not me. Like, I use AI, I like it, but I'm not going to be the next AI coach. You can sell proximity, right? So proximity to your readership, right? So if someone wants to go have dinner or go to a mastermind or go to an in-person event that's small and thoughtful, that's another thing that you can monetize is proximity. The third one, which is harder to monetize in this sort of AI era, is authentic writing. And that's what I'm leaning into, which is great. We've got 1 million people writing the same shit. Awesome. If you want to read that stuff, great. If you want to read what it's really like to have built $2 billion healthcare companies and then built a $12.5 or almost $15 million one person or two person business, like I'm going to authentically share that. And I want to lean into that and lean into writing much more because I think right now that's sort of my unique advantage.
One thing I've learned talking to GPs on the show and in my own experience as a GP, your back office is a signal. How fast you close deals, how clean the LP experience is, how your K1s land, investors notice all of it. The more buttoned up you are, the more likely they are to give you more money in the future. That's why I want to talk about Sydecar. Sydecar is the SPV platform built for fund managers who want institutional quality execution without hiring a full back office team. They'll review your deal within hours, handle full secondary transaction support, and give you transparent pricing up front. No platform carry. Also, your LP relationships stay private, which is super important. It is not a marketplace. If you're running a professional fund, your infrastructure should look like it. Sydecar makes that possible without the overhead. Check them out at sidecar.io/partners/trailblazers. What's your relationship with a lot of these AI tools and writing? I mean, the obvious, we see a lot of AI slop on the internet.
Yep.
And there's, you have two camps, sort of the like, don't touch it at all and keep it authentic, or it can be great and help you write everything a lot faster, easier, whatever. Tell me what's like your relationship with AI tools, and have you trained them to help you write better, or do you try to stay away from them and just write what comes to you?
I try my best to stay away from them.
Okay.
It would be disingenuous to say I don't use them at all.
Yeah.
The way that I think about it is I have a style for my writing. I have a voice, I have a structure, I have a cadence, an emotion, grade level, sentiment, whatever you want to call it. So when I sit down to write a newsletter, after having done this for, I think I'm on my 5th year of writing my newsletter, 250 some issues, it's not as hard as it used to be. So I had two sort of schools of thought. One is I can lean into AI and forget how to write. Like that's what I hear is happening to a lot of people, right? They stop writing, they use AI, and then they go back and they can't write anymore, right? That to me sounds fearful. Or I can write my stuff and then I can push it through an AI and say like, where are the gaps? How might you challenge this argument, right? What am I missing? Is this story interesting? How would you grade this on a scale of 100? Is there a non-obvious surprise in here that the readers are going to actually enjoy reading? And like what I have found, which is kind of interesting, is AI does train you to go back and look at what you write more thoroughly. So now I can actually say like, man, when I upload this, written draft to Claude, what is it going to say? And I can kind of like guess almost where it's going to go. And so I love using it as an editing tool. And by the way, like I try and be super transparent. Like if I'm struggling on how to say a certain sentence, I might say, what's a better way to say this, right? What's a better word choice here? I feel like this is too aggressive or mean, or, I try and be empathetic in all my newsletters. And so I'll use it for word choices the same way you might use an old school thesaurus.
Totally.
Yep.
I think it's really important to speak to writers like yourself on how you're using it. It sounds like it's also more of like a thought partner than it is like truly rewriting what you're putting together. I mean, you'll say, hey, what's a better argument here? And it'll say, think about something like this. And then you can go back and actually rewrite that part versus needing it to completely rewrite your argument entirely.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like there's this distance. You use it as like a thought partner and then you go to your own writing and then edit it on your own.
Correct. And I think where it's even better, what I've found is like, my wife and I have this process where when we're hanging out together and something happens, like I'll give you an example. We went to, we were living in Healdsburg, California, which is north of San Francisco this past winter on a sabbatical. And we went up to a winery whose name I can't remember, or the place I can't remember. And we had this guy who was serving us wine named Hess. And he was like,
what a name.
Yeah, it's a cool name.
Hess.
And like, he was so charismatic and precocious. And we asked him how old he was. And he said, I was 25. And we were like, wow, when I was 25, I was a real idiot. Like, I can't believe this kid's 25. It's amazing. And so we sat there outside and we were like, there's a newsletter in this somewhere. Like, what is it that we just learned from Hess? And I think it was that we judged him very early as being young. And we thought maybe a wine experience would have been better with a guy or gal who had been working at the winery for 40 years and knew all the wines. Turns out Hess was an awesome experience. So I was like, that's a good newsletter. That's a good argument. When in your life have you said, I don't think this person or this thing is going to deliver, and then been surprised? But pushing that through Claude or pushing that through whatever LLM you use is going to give you other ways to think about the observation that you just made that might be slightly more interesting, have a better defense, right, of the thesis that you're making. And so that's how I use it.
I love it. But to your point, you have to go out in the world a lot of the time to put together the best writing. Like you can't just stay at home in your basement thinking all day, every day, and like creating stuff on Claude. You have to go live and you have to go be in the world. And often that's where the best writing comes in.
The easiest way to be interesting online is to be interesting offline.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I think people are holding creators to a higher and higher standard because there are so many now. They want them to actually be like, I have this thesis that like a lot of the lifestyle influencers are sort of going to fall by the wayside and people are going to crave following people and being influenced by people that are actually doing something. Like this idea that like your job as being a creator might not be as exciting as, your day job is actually being a writer or being a founder or being a VC. And then you happen to create on the side because people want to be influenced by people that are actually doing stuff in the world. I
agree. And I think we're going to see a move from like what I would call like, pardon like the gun reference, right? But I can't think of a better reference, but like from a machine gunner to like a sniper, right? Which is, I think the play as the internet has become more crowded has been moving from like, oh, I produce 1 piece or 3 pieces or 5 pieces of thoughtful content a week to I produce 50 pieces of thoughtful content a week because AI has accelerated that and everyone's just like more, better, faster. And I think people are going to get sick of that. And I think what we're going to return to, and I might use maybe like music as a better analogy here, is like being that band that comes out with like a really great album every 5 years and just leaves your audience like really thirsty for whatever thing that you're creating next. At least I hope so.
Yeah.
Because I prefer that world versus like constant content and dopamine. And that just, I don't know. Maybe it's just my age, but I'm just not.
No, I agree with you.
Place.
I think all humans, when you get bombarded or you get too much slop, you do return to the opposite, which is like more curation and more taste. So you have all these different entities. You have this giant newsletter. You have a lot of people that have bought your course. You have followers across all socials. I'm curious now that you've kind of like reached scale with all these different entities, which has been the most valuable for you? Like, I know it's different depending on the creator, if you're like a beauty creator, then you probably are going to love TikTok because you can showcase the product with video. I mean, I know it's different, but I'm so curious, like which of those entities has been the most valuable in our business world? And to that point, which platform or which, whether it's newsletter or courses, which avenue do you think is the most valuable for people getting started today that are business creators?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. I think first of all, the most valuable and what has made the most money are actually not the same here.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Like, sure, the courses made the most money, but courses are notoriously poorly, for lack of a better English term, gotten through, right? Yeah. They have low completion rates. Yeah. They don't make you all that much closer to your audience. To me, the most valuable thing is my newsletter. Because I believe that will stand the test of time. I think AI will ultimately end up commoditizing and eating a lot of bad writers or mediocre writers. My hope is that I continue to improve my craft and I become someday a great writer. But to me, that audience and those readers will always be the most valuable channel. That doesn't mean it's the most valuable channel for up and coming creators today, but I would argue that instead of looking at it as, oh, TikTok is my most valuable, or Instagram or LinkedIn or X or whatever you want to say. The most valuable channel is whatever medium you become excellent at. So there are only so many mediums. There's video, there's audio, there's writing. People always ask me, oh, should I be on Instagram or LinkedIn, or should I just become excellent at a medium? Whatever medium you choose. If you're going to do video, be the best video maker you can possibly be. I mean, I don't watch Mr. Beast. I don't know anything about his channel. I've heard that he studied how to make great videos and that's why he's so good, or how to hack the algorithm or whatever. Great writers will always sell books. They'll always have newsletter subscribers. People who do great interviews will always have podcast listeners. So it's not about which channel. It's about which medium you can commit to because you enjoy doing. To give you like one last example, people always say, Justin, you'd be really good on YouTube. You should start a YouTube channel. I like doing what we're doing right now, but I don't like turning the camera around on myself. So why would I do that? I like to write. So I write every single day of my entire life for the last 10 years, right? Find that thing. It doesn't matter what it is. As long as you love doing it and you commit to it, it will become a valuable channel.
Totally. I think a lot of people struggle with that clarity. of like, what is my thing? Because I think people that are very articulate, very thoughtful, have a lot they want to say, are good in front of a camera, they don't always know which lane to pick. Like, is it YouTube? Is it a newsletter? Is it just trying TikTok because that's got crazy distribution these days? Like, is there a process you've gone through or a process you recommend to get very clear? And I would imagine during that dark period, you did a lot of, maybe it's journaling, maybe it's coaching, maybe it's just leaning on your wife, maybe it's talking to experts. Like, I don't know what that process looks like, but what's your advice for someone that has a lot to say, maybe could kind of do all the things, could write, could be in front of the camera, could do TikTok, could do Instagram, but doesn't know which lane to pick? Yeah,
try them. Like, I'm a big advocate of like, or a big fan of the idea that there are no, I'm not like I push it through this sophisticated principle or like I use this frame. I think all that's horseshit. No offense. Like, I just think that stuff is what people write to like sound complex and interesting. Do stuff. Like, go write something. If you like the concept of writing and how it makes you feel, you like the challenge, try it again. If you absolutely hate it, it's a likely indicator that it's not your thing. If you turn on the camera, you're going to feel uncomfortable doing all of these things, but you should be curious. You should be interested. You should stop recording a video and say, oh, I really enjoyed take one. I think I could do better on take two. Hey, cool. That's a good sign that you might like video. Lean into it again. It's as easy as that. I have like all this hidden YouTube stuff from like 2017, like Tales of the SAS Whiteboard and like all these shows. I tried a bunch of stuff, right?
Yeah.
In the end, the only thing that remained was writing. And so to me, I was like, yeah, I could go on TikTok, but going on a platform and doing something you dislike simply because it has reach, that's the definition of a bad life to me. Like, I actually hate all the things I do, but I do it because it works. Sounds terrible. Why not just become really good at something you like and figure out how to make that work?
Totally. I have a friend who calls it, if you're going to work for yourself, don't build a prison, build a castle.
Exactly.
And it's this like idea that like you should do the thing you like doing, but it's not going to be easy. And I think that's where people get tripped up is like, it should be hard. You should feel curious about it, but it's not going to be easy at all.
If you're building in public, sharing insights, or staying top of mind with your network, you need a newsletter. And if you have a newsletter, you need Beehiiv. You know how I always talk about writing essays that change the trajectory of my VC firm? Well, I publish all of them through Beehiiv. It's my absolute favorite platform because it serves as a blog, a newsletter, and a website all in one, so I don't have to republish or reformat across platforms. Beehiiv is the creator platform where newsletters actually grow. We're talking built-in referral programs, a recommendation network, and analytics that tell you what's working, not just vanity metrics. Plus, you can monetize from day one through their ad network, paid subscriptions, or boosts. No platform cut eating into your revenue as well. I can speak from my personal experience. I'm always getting pinged for new ad opportunities. Beehiiv has a range of customers from major publishers like Time Magazine, TechCrunch, and Newsweek to solo operators earning 7 figures from their inbox. It's the same platform that's built to scale with you. If you've been putting off starting your newsletter or outgrowing whatever you're on, now is the time. Go to beehiiv.com and use code Trailblazers30 for 30% off your first 3 months. So I have a confession. I used to be a compulsive note taker. Every single meeting, I'd be half listening and half scribbling and still leaving with gaps on next steps, details that were shared, and more. But Granola completely changed that for me. It's an AI-powered notepad for meetings, and it's connected to every single call on my calendar. Before each call, it shows me a well-researched brief, so I know who I'm meeting with and the full context going in. During the call, I jot down whatever stands out, maybe it's a keyword or a decision I make, and Granola handles the rest. It'll transcribe in the background on the call and then turns my rough notes into clean, structured takeaways the second we hang up. There's also no bots joining calls. It just works in the background. I use Granola for several things. If I finish a meeting with a potential investor in my fund, I'll ask Granola, what could I have done better to get my point across? If I'm meeting with a founder I like, I'll ask Granola to point out any major green flags or maybe red flags I may not have already caught. For people with a lot of meetings and decisions that require endless context, Granola is a game changer. Actually, we're running Granola on today's episode, so you can read the full show notes at granola.ai/trailblazers. New users get 3 months completely free. That's granola.ai/trailblazers.
I'd love to just ask you about your favorite piece of writing you've ever done. I mean, you're probably in like the top 0.01% of people who've published.
Thank you.
Just quantity of writing and quality of writing. What's your favorite thing that when you close your eyes and think about maybe it like changed the trajectory, maybe it went really viral, or maybe like no one really saw it, but you feel so proud of what you put out there?
Wow, that's a really good question.
And I'm going to link this, so everyone's going to read it.
Oh, God.
So make it a good one.
I don't even know the title of it, but I will find it.
Okay.
There are two things that come to mind.
Okay.
One is when I was writing my original newsletter, which I don't even remember the name of that newsletter, I wrote all this short tactical stuff on like how to grow on social media and all the same stuff I wrote about 7 years ago. And then I took one day and I wrote this like 15-minute piece on the 3 buckets of living what I thought was a well-lived life. And it was the first time I had sat down and written something that was just really long form. And I worked really hard on it. I spent weeks writing it. And I sent it to my audience of maybe 30,000 people at that time, and it was really well received. I republished it under the Saturday Solopreneur, and of course, I'm blanking on the name, but I'll find it. That was like the first piece of really long-form, thoughtful, non-tactical content that I wrote, and it was when I lived in Nashville, so it was probably 5 years ago. And then most recently, I wrote a piece of content called Synthetic Purpose, which I think a lot of people can relate to who have had some level of success in their life, which is the idea that once you've kind of figured out a lot of the problems in your life, how to make money, how to have a roof over your head, Maslow's hierarchy kind of stuff, how to feed your family, how to take care of all those things. If you're like me, a problem solver, and there's not a lot of problems to solve, you start to invent problems. And I wrote this article called Synthetic Purpose about the problems that I invent on a regular basis and how they keep me from enjoying my life as much as I should. And that piece resonated very deeply with my audience because I think I got 1,000 replies, which is a lot for me on a week.
It's incredible. Well, I think also your audience is a lot of people who've achieved some level of career success.
For sure.
And we all struggle for that search for meaning, that search for purpose. Mm-hmm. So I'm not surprised that resonated. That's very interesting. Amazing. I want to talk a little bit about the founder archetype, because that's something that I'm personally very interested in. So a lot of founders that are getting started today, they are trying to build great products, build great teams. But the biggest thing that they often struggle with is go-to-market and distribution. Mm-hmm. And so there's this narrative in venture that, maybe we're actually entering this age where founders should have some sort of built-in distribution to win. There's a lot of founders that are building in public. You see like a Sam Altman at OpenAI doing a lot of public facing, whether it's tweeting or speaking. He's building sort of an audience around his brand. I think Brian Armstrong at Coinbase is another good example of this. Elon is probably the ultimate, right? Sort of this like public facing founder that builds their own distribution. How important do you think that is? I know you've been an angel investor many times over. You hang out in sort of the like founder investor, entrepreneur circles. How important do you think distribution is to build a giant company? And, as AI takes over the world and everything gets commoditized, is that what's going to matter more and more, or is something else going to matter more and more?
I mean, I think it's an accelerant, right? I think I would never be as foolish as to say, without it, you can't build a great big company. Before I came in to do this, I was just having a cup of coffee and I was scrolling through X, and I'm going to forget his name, but the CEO of owner.com, which is Adam. Okay, great. I was Adam, yeah. I was an advisor to his VP of sales a long time ago, probably 6 years ago. And I don't believe that back then he had a big personal brand or distribution. But as I was scrolling X just before I got here, I saw that he was announcing a big product via video, and it looked like he had gotten a lot of traction. That is an example where the product was so good and the product market fit was so exceptional that it grew, right? He understood his customer base. He understood what their pains and problems were. It grew. I'm sure it didn't grow organically, right? Yeah. I'm sure that they had to go out and hit the streets and do all those things, hit the phones. But now it's accelerating through his personal brand, right? Or whatever you want to call it, his distribution. Do I think if he had distribution in the beginning, that might have accelerated faster? I can't say for sure, but I would hypothesize that it would. So my whole thought is right now, especially with everyone's ability to build companies faster and with less friction because of the tools that are available, it's a great day to get started, right? And I think if you're going to get started building distribution, which is going to be important, I think the best thing that you can do is tell a unique and interesting story. I don't actually think Elon does a whole lot of personal branding around Tesla. Like, I don't really, he's just him. He's that guy, right? And people either love him or hate him. And if you love him, you buy his products. If you don't, you don't. So it's just be yourself, be someone who people want to follow and be interested in, and then weave your story around that personality. That would be the advice that I would give people. And I think it's an accelerant, not a must-have.
Totally. There's also this narrative too in creation that you need to be offering value to people. How important do you think it is to like promote your stuff? Like an Adam is a perfect example today. He's launching this like really exciting AI agent that they're working on, I think called Gardener, I want to say.
That's right.
$1 billion, in sales for their restaurants, crushing it. They're kind of promoting themselves, which is epic, and everyone's like, this is cool. But there's this narrative that you actually should just be like adding value and providing value to other people. How do you think about that trade-off, and like how important is one versus the other?
Well, I think it used to be more important. I think adding value used to be more important. And maybe that's wrong, but like my first instinct is to say at some point in time, adding value meant being helpful, educating, helping people figure things out, solve problems. Of course, that's still helpful, right? So let's not pretend that it's not. But there are so many problem-solving tools now available to us through Claude or ChatGPT or whatever thing that you want to use. To me, what's more valuable now is storytelling. So if you watch the video that we're both talking about now, yes, I think there was some how this will help restaurants and why restaurants should adopt this tool and things like that. But it was a production. It was a story.
It was wild for like a launch video.
It was marketing, right?
Yeah.
And like I think if you pull back and look at X today versus 2020, what you're going to see today is bravado, production, storytelling, division, misinformation, but stuff that sticks. Versus if you go back 5 or 6 years ago, what you're going to see is step-by-step how-tos, guides, frameworks. That's changed a lot in the last 5 or 6 years. So it's less adding value doesn't work anymore. And it's more, can you add value, but also can you make it Ringling Brothers? Like, can you knock people's socks off?
There's also an interesting through line I'm hearing here too, that like it used to be a little bit more written and now it's a little bit more visual. Like I think there's still a lot of AI tools that can help you make your videos more amazing and beautiful and faster. But I think there's also this like commoditization of a lot of writing. And so I think people have turned to like video, which feels harder and seems harder. Are you feeling that way too? That like, because video and especially these like well-produced pieces of content, that requires like a lot more effort and a special studio and all these like Gen AI tools, and they're kind of complicated to use a lot of the time. What's your take on that? Like the evolution of written to visual? I
mean, I think no matter what medium you choose, what is starting to work, and I say work with air quotes because I don't know, I just, it's being bombastic, right? So like being bombastic is now working very well because there's so much noise. There's so much content being created that in the sea of this content, you have to stand out. And one easy way is to just be as bombastic as hell. And that can come across in both video and written, by the way. The problem that I have with like that style is it in and of itself eliminates nuance. Like that's how I feel about being bombastic. I think you shred all nuance, you push it away, and you get really declarative. Everything is like this. It has to be this way. And I don't personally like that, but I think it's what works now. I think what we're going to do is we're going to come full circle pretty soon. And I think you actually started to see this with some of the X articles that they were going really, really viral, is people are going to crave nuance and context. People are going to crave non-declarative statements where people are saying it might be this way or probably, or I should have. Like a little bit of hedging, I think is going to become popular again. But right now we are in the moment of like the loudest, biggest microphone, regardless of whether what is being said is true, is winning.
Totally. And it's very short, quippy stuff.
Yep.
Like I love this idea of like really long form articles, like a documentary feature or something that really like, brings in that nuance. I think that's essential moving forward.
Maybe this will come across the wrong way, so I hope it doesn't. But like when I see someone remove nuance from a topic that requires nuance, and by the way, marketing does this all of the time. I just lose trust in that. Like, I just lose trust in that person, in that brand. I think of them as, this will probably definitely come around the wrong way, but I'll say it anyways. I think of that person as lower IQ. Like, all big complex things require nuance and context. And so I just become disinterested in that thing. And I see a lot of people who don't feel the same way because it gets a lot of engagement and a lot of comments, and to each their own, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Well, it's also just thinking about like, what do you want to be known for? You
Totally.
know, what do you want to be known as the person that has like that quippy, simple, maybe lacks nuance thing? Or do you want to be known as the person that like really is thoughtful and intentional and can stand by anything they share? And I think that that also is maybe just like a thing to think about for anyone that's creating content.
It very much is.
Yeah. So you've been doing some angel investing. I wanted to touch on that. How are you meeting these founders? What gets you excited about a deal? Talk to me a little about that, because a lot of the companies you've backed, I did my research, and they're very in line with your work. It's like it's almost like you have like a solopreneur investing thesis. I'm projecting here, but tell me a little bit more about that.
I have a very not interesting thesis, and am, I would call, a hobbyist angel investor. So it generally fits in two categories. One is, it's a tool I use and very much enjoy, right? So I'll give you a couple of examples of that. Kit.com, right?
I'm a Beehiiv investor, so
cool.
We can find it out.
No worries. I think Beehiiv is fantastic, by the way. I think they're excellent. I've been using Kit for a long time. Nathan is a friend of mine. And Gumroad is another tool that I've invested in. I sell through Kajabi. Right. So I don't use Gumroad anymore. But when I did, I thought it was the best thing I had ever seen. Right. And that was a long time ago when it was sort of the best course, platform that you could use.
And a cool model with dividends, by the way.
And I just like Sahil. Like,
Sahil's great.
Yeah. So like, you're going to see a lot of the same thing here, which is like, I like the founder. I use the tool. That's a pretty good intersection of how I invest. And then there's another side, which is people I would give money to no matter what they did. And that's like, to give you an example of that, it's Travis Schneider and Luke Curvin, who are the co-founders of Patient Pop, which was merged with Cario and became Tebra. That is a big, huge business now. That's where I was VP of Sales and Chief Revenue Officer for a while. And Luke and Travis are serial entrepreneurs. Whenever they start a new company, I invest because I just think that they're excellent. And they could come and say, it's something totally different than healthcare in the CPG space. And I'd be like, here's my money, because I just think they're excellent entrepreneurs. So it's that simple. And it's proven to be a pretty decent, like, dual way of thinking about it, because for being a hobbyist, the return's been pretty good. Yeah.
Well, okay, here's my like hot take here. I think a lot of the founders behind these businesses, I mean, I saw you backed Acquire, Andrew at Acquire.
Yeah, I love Andrew.
Gumroad Gumroad, exactly. Andrew's been on the podcast, by the way. He's great. Nathan at Kit, these people do have some of their own distribution, and they do kind of have this like forward-facing founder. You know that Gumroad is Sahil. You don't really separate the two.
Yeah.
So that's kind of back to my earlier comment. Like, I think that can be such an enticing way to find great companies.
Yeah, it is an enticing way to find great companies. And I think, if you think about the guys who are behind those companies, they're people who have been around with their brands for a very long time.
Totally.
Right? You can zoom back and see Nathan Barry on YouTube with James Clear and my friend Brennan when they're like babies, right? Like, it's like 2015, they're having conversations about internet marketing. And, that was 4 years before I even got involved in talking about this thing. So they have a track record. And you know what? Like, very candidly, I don't want to misrepresent myself as some big time angel investor. I am certainly not that. But it's just like, it's people I want to show support to.
Yeah.
Like, it's
because they do the same for you, probably,
of course,
too.
Yeah, if I started a business tomorrow, I could imagine that the majority of folks who I've written a check to would turn around and write a check to me. And it's just saying, hey, I see you. I recognize your effort. I believe in you. And I'll put my money where my mouth is.
I love it.
Yeah.
No, I agree with your point, though, that a lot of those founders are super obsessive and have been doing it for a while. And that's conviction in and of itself, regardless of the business. So your work so far has been very focused on writing, business, entrepreneurship. But you haven't really talked about your wife. You haven't really talked about your family. You haven't really talked about, you have maybe the newsletter about the wine experience, or you have the newsletter, that has a little bit more, synthetic purpose about how you're thinking about the meaning of life. Mm-hmm. But have you ever thought about veering into that personal life, or have you always wanted to keep it very separate?
I'm starting to. So one thing that's been sort of new is I've always ended every newsletter, at least for the last year or so, saying, I ask the readers a question to kind of ponder at the end. And then I say, write back. Tell me what you think. I can't reply to every single email that I get, but I read them all, which I do. And I love to hear from you. And then about maybe 8 or 12 weeks ago, I wrote back and said, at the end, I said, write back and tell Jennifer and I what you think. We read all these responses. And while we can't reply back to everyone, we love to hear from you. And the very first time I did that, replies poured in much faster, which, by the way, wasn't the intention of the change, but it was an interesting outcome of the change. It's that people seem to care about what was going on behind the scenes, which I had hypothesized before in the past. But I wanted to share more of that family background because, frankly, as I get a little older and as I transition away from like, here's how to grow 40,000 followers on X, like that kind of content, which I don't care about anymore. I want readers to be closer. I want to be closer to my readers. I want to present my wife as who she is, which is someone who is an integral part of not just my life, but my business. Maybe not to the sense of she's doing as much in the business as someone like myself, but everything that I do and we do together impacts her and myself. And so I've brought her in that way. It's small. It's hard to notice, but it's made a huge change in how readers respond when they know there's a family and there's something behind, I guess, this guy who's writing to them. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And I think so much of your brand has also been solo.
Sure.
Like the one person multi-million-dollar business. And
Yep.
so this idea that like, oh, actually we're solo, but there's people behind us too that have been supporting us. And it's actually a little bit more of a team than you'd think. I think also was very like, rewarding for people because it seems crazy to build this all on your own. Oh, okay. No, he's actually got some people back there and he's actually got a little more support than I thought.
Yeah, I think, and I do want to like kind of be careful around that because the truth is, never had an employee.
Yeah.
Right? Not a single one, just me and Jennifer.
That's wild.
Then people they'll see a new website come up and they'll be like, did you build it on your own? And I'll say, well, no, I outsourced my website to an agency, right? So like, yes, we have help, right? Like, I certainly don't build my own website and, set up all the software that I certainly outsource those things. But I want to veer away from solopreneurship, not because I don't think it's the future. I think it's even more so the future than when I started talking about it. But just because it puts silly constraints on you, right? If you want to hire a VA, then suddenly you have to like defend that title. And it's just like, it's silly. What does it matter? Like, it doesn't matter to me. So I'm just like, stop talking about it. I'll probably at some point, the newsletter will probably no longer be called the Saturday Solopreneur at some point. Whether that's smart or not doesn't matter. But I wanted to kind of break free from those constraints that I set for myself.
Makes total sense. And I agree with you. I think there is a lot of obsession about doing it solo.
Yeah.
Like I think of like Base 44. I don't know if you saw that, but they were acquired for 80 million. It's one of these like lovable competitors.
Yeah,
and it was like the solo founder, 80 million. Like we're getting close to the $1 billion solo founder. And there's really this like obsession with one person starting something big. And I don't know where that comes from. I think Silicon Valley has always been obsessed with like wealth and like revenue per employee.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. I think it's only going to become more of a thing. So buckle in. I
think everyone thought I was silly when I talked about solopreneurship 6 years ago or 5 years ago. And now it's like coming very much to fruition with these new tools. And I am very bullish on one person businesses, whether that's, someone in their spouse or someone in a VA or just someone, right? I think those are the future.
Totally. It can be even one person business with like 10 VAs.
Sure.
That's okay too.
Yeah, do your thing.
Okay, so last thing I wanted to ask you before we get to our lightning round is sort of like what's next? I mean, you had this 4 to 6 month dark period. You've been doing a lot of reflecting and getting really clear on, as AI is taking over, like how do you want to spend your days? So I'd love if you could share a little bit about how you're spending your time.
Yeah.
What does the next like year or two look like in your life? What are you excited about? And maybe you can tease some of the things for our listeners that they can like look forward to that you're going to be sharing.
Sure. So we've spent the last 2 years doing a few sabbaticals, which has been the first time that we've done that, which has been a lot of fun. Last year, we live in upstate New York. in the Hudson Valley, and the winters are pretty heavy. So last year we did a sabbatical in Europe for 3 months for the first time, and that was really eye-opening and really exciting, and gave me a new, fresh perspective on so many things to talk about. And then this year we did it in California. So that has been sort of a new addition to our life. And really, it's made us more well-rounded. It's made writing a lot better. It's made so many. It's also just allowed me to meet so many cool people, which has been. I met a ton of French entrepreneurs, which is super fun. So that's been like a new introduction in our life. But my life has settled down dramatically compared to maybe where it was 3 to 5 years ago. Without getting into the boring and mundane details, most of my days start off with a workout and a walk. Most of my days have a lunch, and then I write. That is about it, right? And then, some wine and dinner, and that's it.
It's a good life.
It's a pretty simple life.
Yeah.
Most of it is spent writing, whether that's content or whether that's my newsletter. It's mostly around the newsletter. I want to continue that. I want to become the best newsletter writer that I can be. And as I may have alluded to, or in other places, I want to continue to test my own ability to write longer form. And I'm hoping that comes through in something like a book or an ebook, or whether it's self-published or with one of the big publishing companies, remains to be seen. But I want to push myself. I want to get outside of my comfort zone, because I've often been caught saying to other people, yeah, I'm a writer. I write, but I can't write a book. I don't know how to write that kind of thing. I know how to write a newsletter. And it's a lot of self-doubt. And I think that if I could eliminate that self-doubt, it would open up the next phase of my life. I'm good at it for about 5-year increments. I'm good at one thing for 5 years. I get really bored. I try another thing for 5 years. I get really bored. That has been my life story for the last 20 years. And I think it's time to lean into sort of that next phase. And that's where I'm hoping to go.
The 2026 primaries are taking shape, and if you have a strong opinion about how they're going to go, Kalshi lets you actually trade on it. Kalshi is the largest prediction market in the US, federally regulated and available in all 50 states. You're not betting against a house. You're trading against other people in a live market, taking yes or no positions on real-world events. Elections, federal interest rates, economic data, you name it. Right now in Kalshi, you can trade on the California governor race, Senate outcomes, and a dozen other major political storylines as they develop. As the probability shifts, you can buy in or out of your position in real time. It's a completely new asset class, and honestly, one of the more interesting ways to have skin in the game on what you're already watching closely. Download the Kalshi app, that's Kalshi, and use code Trailblazers to get $10 when you trade $10. Or go to kalshi.com/r/trailblazers to accept this $20 offer. With Kalshi, you can trade on anything. 18 plus only, restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. Okay, so a quick experiment. Think about the last long message you typed. Could be a Slack thread, a prompt into Claude, maybe it's a detailed email. It probably took you 10 minutes, maybe even 20 to get it right. Now imagine you just said it out loud instead. That is the whole pitch for Wispr Flow. Wispr Flow is voice to text that actually works in every app on every device. You speak naturally and it outputs clean, formatted text that's ready to send. No setup, no integrations, no fixing weird transcription errors. And it works across Gmail, Slack, Notion, Claude, iMessage, wherever you type. And unlike the built-in dictation on your phone, Wispr Flow removes all filler words, mid-sentence corrections, and jargon. What I personally love about it too is that it perfectly matches my style. So I often type in all lowercase letters, so it'll type like that. I also say things like LMK, which means let me know in shorthand, and it'll auto-adjust it from let me know to LMK. Like many of you, I also do a lot of brain dumping into LLMs. So instead of typing it all out, I actually just speak my windy train of thought into Wispr Flow, which is infinitely faster than trying to get my fingers to keep up with the pace of my thoughts. If you do any serious writing or just send a lot of messages and emails, using Wispr Flow is a no-brainer. Get 1 whole month of Wispr Flow Pro completely free at ref.wisprflow.ai/trailblazers.
Okay, give me the first answer that comes to mind. Okay, this is our Trailblazer trade-offs. Book in hand or podcast in ears?
Book in hand.
Any favorites?
Ooh,
as of recently?
It's a story called Unbelievable, which is also a documentary on Netflix. It's a miserably depressing topic, but it's a very good book.
Can you give us a hint at what the topic is?
I can. It's a very traumatic experience about a serial rapist.
Oh my goodness.
It's a true story. It's on Netflix.
And is the book even more wild than the movie?
No.
What's the order in which you saw it?
I saw the movie first. It's an 8-part series called Unbelievable on Netflix with Toni Collette in
Oh, I've heard of this.
And, oh God, my wife's going to be really mad that I can't remember her name. The girl from Nurse Jackie, the other nurse.
Oh, Edie Falco.
Not Edie Falco, the other one. Merritt Weaver. There it is.
Wow, that was a really good pull.
Yeah, Merritt Weaver and Toni Collette. It's a really traumatic, very deeply disturbing documentary, but it's also just incredibly well acted. And the book, it was based on a newspaper article that won an award, and then that article was expanded into a book, which tracks catching this guy. And I just thought it was just exceptional.
Sounds gripping. Also, you're someone from what I know about you now, loves great storytelling.
I do.
And so even like regardless of the topic, for something to be able to capture you like that, it's hard to come by these days.
It's a great book.
Yeah. Morning person or night owl?
Oh, morning person.
Okay. Is it because you like to go to bed early or wake up early? Both.
Both. Yeah, I go to bed a lot of times I'll go to bed in the 8s. And then I'm up around 5.
You're ultra early.
Yeah. My wife, she's like, oh, it's in the 8s. Like that's a common thing I hear towards the end of the night, but I just can't do it. Like my eyes start to get sleepy and I get up around 5 or 5:30. Yeah.
I love referring to time as like the 8s or the 6s
like,
or the 7s.
It's the 8s.
It's the 8s. Yeah. You gotta wait till the 9s.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Cooking dinner or ordering in?
Cooking dinner.
Okay. Anything you like to make?
Yeah. Gosh, we love to make buffalo salmon bowls, which sounds gross, but it's like
that sounds good.
It's salmon tossed in buffalo sauce with blue cheese and celery over white rice. It's delicious. My wife is an incredible cook, so she makes a lot of Mexican food. She's from El Paso, Texas, so cooked a lot of Mexican food growing up. So yeah, we love to cook. It's one of our biggest hobbies. I got a pizza oven at home, which I suck at really badly, and I get very frustrated by.
It's a fun experiment, though.
It is until you decide you're going to do it for people who are waiting. At a
hosting,
dinner table.
That's not fun.
It's just the worst. But yeah, we love to cook. That's like one of our big hobbies.
I love that. So I'm a big salmon person. We do a lot of salmon at our house. Are you an air fryer salmon guy or are you an oven salmon guy?
I'm a baked salmon guy. Yeah, we bake our salmon.
You bake it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're big 13 minutes at 400 for a half-pound piece.
And do you marinate the buffalo sauce for a while before, or do you just put it on?
We marinate for a while, and then we cover it in the oven, and then we bake it, and then we set aside some, and then we put it on the bowls. It's delicious.
Sounds magical. I'm going to try it. I'll let you know what I think.
I'll send you the recipe.
Send me the recipe. Yeah, I love it. Okay. VC or bootstrapping?
Bootstrapping.
Okay, tell me more.
I don't like boss. I don't, and I think of raising VC capital. Sorry, I'm sure there's a lot of people who disagree with me on the podcast, but like
you're speaking to a VC. No.
Right. This is just my personal preference.
That's why I asked.
There's two things about it. One is I don't ever want a boss. It's why I vacillate between self-publishing and signing with a big publishing house, because that feels like a boss. But the other thing is just like I put so much pressure on myself that I don't like having external pressure too. One of the things in my job at Patient Pop that I was told that I was good at was being prepared for board meetings, because I absolutely was scared out of my mind for that pressure. And I wanted to make sure I was locked and loaded when I walked in that room. And so I just feel like I don't want to do that anymore.
You did it.
Yeah,
like you put in your hours, you put in your days. You need to do it.
Yeah.
I totally hear you. And it's refreshing to hear. I think, I will tell you, I sometimes have VCs on and they say bootstrapping. So, you never know what the answer will be. Everyone has their own opinions.
Yeah.
Okay. Networking dinner or big conference?
Networking dinner. Okay. I prefer neither because I'm relatively introverted. But if I had to choose one, I would choose a networking dinner that is more intimate, that is more geared towards a very specific persona or archetype. One of the great things about having a personal brand, for lack of a better term, is people will come up to me now at things and say, oh, I follow you on social media. That is such a relief. I hate small talk for the most part, but if someone starts it, I will for sure play along. Or be involved, and I can enjoy it, but I hate starting it.
So fair.
Like, I can't walk up to a group of people and be like, hey, what's up, guys? Like, never.
Terrifying.
My whole life. What
types of events are interesting for you now? Like a networking dinner, let's say, lands in your inbox, because you're kind of like a quirky invite. You kind of want to be solitary doing your writing. It's like, it's not like you're a VC who needs to meet founders or like an operator looking for their next gig. So like, what is interesting to you now to say yes to?
It's a great question. I think that what's most interesting to me is to be around people doing different things than what I'm doing and my friends are doing. Like, I don't want to go to another creator dinner. Like I just went to one that was actually very excellent, so I shouldn't say that. But I'd much rather learn about people who are making music or painting or doing something interesting that's totally different from my world, right? And I love the fact that we live in upstate New York. I meet a lot of gardeners. I meet a lot of crafters, people making, board games, like all kinds of interesting stuff, which I love. And none of them know who I am, which is awesome. I don't have to tell them about myself. When they ask, I just say I write a newsletter, which is fantastic. But those are the interesting things to me. And you're right. I stay away from most. I'm not big on the scene, if you will.
Yeah. I think that's so fair. And it fits your personality and you don't need it to do your job well.
Yeah. And just maybe you will even see this after this podcast or perhaps before. I know how to talk on a podcast, but I'm very shy and collapse in onto myself offline and off podcast, which is just a different personality. Yeah,
it's funny. But even when we first, we walked in, you're still very sociable. It's just maybe that's not where you get your energy, which is very fair.
That's right.
That's very, very fair. Okay. So this is a funny question to ask you because you don't have employees and you're the ultimate solopreneur, as we've discussed, but hire slow or fire fast? When you were in your CRO seat, I know you were a big people manager.
Yeah.
How do you think about hiring slow or firing fast?
Firing fast.
Okay, tell me more.
The wrong hire is a multiplier. So people often think that when you hire someone who either does one of two things, a bad job, just kind of what I might call quantitatively, like they're just bad at their actual job tactically, or bad culture fit. So kind of talking the wrong way, infecting other people with bad or negative energy. Both of those things compound like the stock market. Like it doesn't go that they tell one bad thing to one person and then a second person and then a third person. It's they infect one person who infects two, who infects four, who infects 16. Like culture killers.
It's like the COVID epidemic. It's like it just spreads.
I have become, I don't like firing anyone any more than you do or anyone else does.
Yeah.
But you have to. And especially the smaller the organization, culture killers, people who are impacting the jobs of others, it's fair to save the business, to save the people there, and to give the person a real shot to do something they should be doing. It's fair around.
Totally. What do you think is more detrimental, the culture killer or the C performer with the A players?
Culture killer.
Yeah.
Culture killer just can impact everybody. I remember, and this probably wasn't what I should have said to this young lady, but I said, she was a very good salesperson, but she just had a really bad attitude. And I just said, because this was topical back then, I said, you remind me of Johnny Manziel. You're a really good football player and you got a terrible attitude. And I just had to get her out of that business because it was detrimental to everybody around her.
Totally. And especially in sales, I mean, it's just
For
relationships. Sure. It's not like you're some coder hiding in a basement.
That's
like
right.
It's everything. Okay. 10 small wins or one big moonshot?
10 small wins.
Goes with your bootstrapping answer.
Totally.
Yeah, you're the compounding guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather have 10 wins and have 2 of them eventually not be wins and have 8 wins left over than take a moonshot and be left with nothing.
Totally. But in some ways, if you do write a book, that will be like a moonshot. It'll be kind of like your one play.
Sure. I've just got 8 wins behind it already.
That's true.
That makes it a lot easier to take that moonshot.
Yeah, it cushions the fall, the 8 wins.
That's right.
If it happens. Being early or being right?
Oh, I thought that was going in a different direction.
What do you think it was going to be? Being early or?
I don't know. I thought it was going to be a time question. I was like leaning in to say being early, but the answer is being right.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not trying to disrupt an industry, so I don't care about being early. I just want to be right. I want to get it right over time. I think long-term, I'm more about longevity. And while getting in early may guarantee you longevity or make that more likely, getting things right will generally allow you to stick around. And so I much prefer to get things right.
I also think with writing, ideally writing is timeless.
For sure.
And so there's something to be said specifically about your craft that you want it to be right. And, hopefully people can look, the solopreneur thing is a great example. Like 6-7 years ago when you started it, wow, that was pretty early. It was early, but you were also right. And so that stands the test of time.
Yeah. Lucky. So
like, yes, but also
get lucky a lot, right? Like,
I guess. Okay, so maybe instead of being right, get lucky.
Yeah, try your best to get lucky.
We'll pick that one as a new answer.
Sure.
So here's a problem I hear constantly from operators. The data exists, the answers are somewhere in there, but getting to them, actually pulling a useful insight without bugging the data team or learning SQL takes way too long or just does not happen. Hex solves that. Hex is an AI analytics platform where anyone on your team can ask data questions in plain English and get real answers, backed by your actual business context. No SQL required. And the best part is that Hex shows you exactly how its data agents think, so you can see where the logic comes from and trust the output. The more your team uses it, the smarter it gets. From seed stage founders running lean to larger orgs dealing with serious data complexity, Hex is built to scale with you. It's game-changing for people like me who want to understand what's going on under the hood, but we are not the data experts. It's funny too, because I feel like every time I look over my operator friends' shoulders, whether they're in product or marketing or ops, they often have a Hex dashboard pulled up. It's a great tool. Trailblazers listeners get an exclusive 30-day free trial at hex.ai/trailblazers.
So never post on social media again. You're not a good person to ask this one, too.
No, ask away. Maybe the answer's surprising. Who knows?
Okay, we'll see. I'm like, we ask everyone these, but I'm like, your answer's probably obvious. So never post on social media again at all, or never fundraise another dollar again.
Which would I prefer to do?
Yeah.
I would love to never fundraise $1, and I would someday like to never be on social media ever again.
So neither.
So right. Both or neither, depending on how the question is phrased. But obviously, I would rather post on social media than raise $1. So that would be my answer. But I would love to get both.
Totally. Do you ever see yourself starting a company? I mean, you talk about these 5-year itches. Like, would you ever go do? I mean, you have the network. VCs know who you are. Tech people know who you are. Is there any world where you start something, you fundraise $1, maybe many dollars, and you start something?
Yes. I like to joke about bootstrapping and fundraising and VCs and things like that. But there's a world there. But I am not a risk taker the way that most entrepreneurs are. I'm an apprentice style learner. So if I were to start my own company, I would call Travis or Luke and say, I have an idea, but like I need a mentor. Like I very much love a guide. And if they were willing to kind of guide me through the beginning, even though I've built my own online business, I think I would feel really comfortable learning from someone. I learned a lot when I was the CRO, but like I would love another go around as second in command before being first in command.
That's so fair. I'm also of the mindset that everyone should pick the company they want to build. And then the second question is, how do you capitalize it? Venture, something else. But the main question is always like, what do you want to build? And then mentors, like you're saying, can help you think about that second piece.
For sure.
Totally. Amazing. Okay, the last question, the one that's on everyone's minds right now, okay? Is AI overhyped or underhyped?
Underhyped.
Okay, tell me more.
I think it's easy to overhype it in a vacuum. And like an example of that might be, hey, look, I asked AI this question and it got the answer wrong. Look at how stupid this tool is or how easily fooled it is. Yes, in one small experiment, it will be wrong often. The question is, how quickly is it accelerating? By the way, I don't know the answer because I'm not an AI expert, so I can't tell you it's as good as it should be or 10 times better or 100 times better. I don't know. What I know is from my own experience, it appears to be getting better and better at a pretty fast rate. And if it does that and the amount of tools that connect into it continue to increase, I do think it's going to start to wipe away a lot of entry-level jobs. And then eventually, I think a lot of even what you would call white-collar jobs. Then the question becomes, is underhyped the right term for that? I just think it could be very decimating. And I'm very happy that I'm not 20.
Yeah.
I feel that every single day. Like, I'm so glad that I'm not 20 years old. Now, if I was 20, I would probably say, this is awesome. I can do a lot of cool stuff with this, but I don't have the mind of a 20-year-old and that optimism for AI at the moment. But I do believe it could be either catastrophic or really useful, but either way, it is underhyped.
This is really feeding into that pessimistic thing we were talking about earlier. We need your wife to come in to be like, you know what? It could make everything better. It could change the world for good.
Yeah, it definitely could. Totally. And I don't mean to be pessimistic. I just mean to say...
You're being realistic. I mean, I think this is what a lot of people think. So I think you're not far off.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I feel good about that.
Don't worry. You're not, the world's not ending, but I agree. I mean, there's a lot of changes coming for sure.
Yeah.
Justin, thanks for being here. This was super fun.
That was a great interview. I really appreciate the thoughtful questions and letting me give you my best answers.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks so much for listening to the Trailblazers podcast. If you found this conversation valuable, please follow along on socials, share with a friend, leave a review, all the things. Most of all, please subscribe to our channel. It helps more contrarian builders find us and supports the work we're doing here. To learn more about what we're doing, you can visit trailblazerspod.com or my venture capital firm, parkrangerscap.com, or just follow along on socials at Erica_Wenger. Until next time, keep trailblazing.